Thanks all for coming. I'm going to do a talk now. Might have mentioned it because we haven't had any speaker submissions. I'm going to be talking about how you can synchronize component data between your LWCs and even more with Lightning Web Security. These slides are ones that I presented at North Africa Dreaming last year. I've left them like this just so you can get the kind of, I was going to say the kind of idea of the talks you might get at one of these community conferences. Don't judge them on this. This is my talk. There were loads of other better talks there. But anyway, yeah, here we go. Oh, you don't need to know, but this is me. For people who don't know us, maybe should we all introduce ourselves as organisers? Because who's here for the first time? Who here for the first time doesn't know us? Valerie, right? Yeah. So we introduce Rich. Right. Okay. So there are four of us. There are four of us who are running the London Developer Group. There's me, I'm Todd Halfpenny. This is loads of interesting stuff about me and not so interesting stuff. And we have Trooper, who's here.
I'm the loud one.
She's the loud one. Everyone's got their skill sets. And that's just one of yours. And then we've got Keir. Where's Keir? Has he gone now? Keir's left because I'm talking. You met him earlier. And then we have Amnon, who did... There's Amnon.
I'm hiring.
And he's hiring. So this is us, we're organisers for tonight. And yeah, but here's some more stuff about me. Best thing about this, Shirt Force. If you like this kind of t-shirt here, there are loads more of these, and this Troublemaker hoodie, and a Troublemaker t-shirt, and this SFDX t-shirt. Yeah. You can go to shirtforce.org, buy these, and 100% of profits go to charity. How cool is that? Not only are you doing good, but you look hot, right?
Yeah, and if you have an idea.
Oh, and if you have an idea for a funny t-shirt that you'd like to get made, then talk to me and we can maybe do it. We are going to be supporting people in the community who are having trouble getting to community events and giving them financial support. So there's not an official charity just as yet. That's the movement we're doing this year. Something new for us, which is quite exciting. Anyway, yeah, Lightning Web Security is what I want to talk about. We're going to talk about what it is, why you should be using it, and when you can use it. The last one, because it's old slides, is right now. Short answer. Going to look at some of the tooling that you can use to help you on your journey from what you might have at the moment into Lightning Web Security, or if you're building new things, how it can help you. We're going to look at some examples of what you can do with Lightning Web Security turned on in your orgs. We'll talk about some of the benefits you get. Obviously, the use case and examples will demonstrate some things you can do. And we'll talk about some of the limitations that are now in place, or currently, I should say. Yeah, we already had Locker Service. So why did we need something different? Sorry? Because it's old. Yeah. So Locker Service is old. I mean, it's old, and it was bespoke, built by Salesforce to provide a level of security so that when you're writing your Lightning Web components, they can't interfere with other Lightning Web components and all the kind of security stuff they were trying to take care of for you. It was completely non-standard. Oh, this is my brief history. Completely non-standard, which meant that it came with its own set of limitations and Salesforce's, I guess, assumptions about where web components might be going a bit. Some of the downsides, well, performance is a big hit. So part of Locker Service, what they did is they get like a virtual representation of things like the document and the window object and all these other things. And every component that you set up instantiated one of these, and all the calls were going through them. And it's a very heavy process and caused a lot of performance issues. And so they want to move away from it. So the future is that when I wrote these slides, I was told, Locker Service is only being maintained. There's going to be no more new features until there was one new feature. But now it's not being, there's no more new features, I've been told. It is, again, just being maintained. But that's okay, because we've got Lightning Web Security now. And is it better? Well, yes, it's better. So it's a standards-based approach to securing your web components. So when you write an LWC, you now have like a sandbox JavaScript environment for your component. They could talk between each other if they're in the same namespace. And they're all kind of wrapped up in, I guess, well, it's just as secure as standard space. I said that. Oh, and it has better performance. So they're using the real document or global object or window or what else there? Like Navigate. I don't know if you played with web APIs, but all of these things within the DOM and APIs you've got access to, you're now using the real ones rather than these virtual ones, and that makes things much faster, which is good. And there are other benefits now because we're using these real things. We'll get onto them. Kind of looks like that, I guess. It was being rolled out automatically. So if you had an old org that had Locker Service on, Salesforce were doing an audit of the org and saying, oh, it looks like this one's safe to turn Locker Service off and put Lightning Web Security on. Their initial model of that wasn't incredibly great because there were lots of things that would break if you put Lightning Web Security on. Like lots of Aura stuff just wouldn't work, and it wasn't really in place. But now the rollout is happening automatically. I think all new orgs have it in from winter. Was it winter 24? I think had. Oh, was it? I might have been before that. So the rollout is happening now. So just be aware. This might just get turned on in your org, and you might not know about it. That's cool because there's some good stuff, which is cool. As I said, there's some tools to help you when you're either migrating or you've migrated and you want to see what you can now do with them. And we'll go into some of those. There's this thing called the Lightning Web Security Console, which is a web tool up here. And the idea being is you can write some code into this bit over here, and then it will tell you how it's run, whether things worked or not, or through any errors. I think it's really not very good. It looks pretty half-baked. Like the way you enter the code, I think there's things like you can't copy and paste twice, or you run things and things get deleted. It's just a bit clunky, and it doesn't always give you the correct answers either, which isn't great. But it might guide you somewhere towards a thing. But it's there, and you can't put stuff in here like imports, blah-de-blah, from Lightning, refresh, whatever. You can't bring imports in. It's only kind of like single lines of vanilla JavaScript. So as it's not the greatest, at least it wasn't when I'd used it. There's another tool available now, which is this distortion viewer. So if I take a step back, when you do things like you call an HTTP fetch, you won't be necessarily calling the complete implementation of HTTP fetch, right? That's available to you if you're working just in your own kind of, I don't know, Angular project or whatever. There are some distortions that are put in place by Salesforce, and that's to protect the rest of the components around you and to protect you from these other components. And with the distortion view, it's kind of like a reference manual. You can go, here, so if you use the function constructor, it's telling you that actually this isn't going to behave 100% as it would in the standards world. It's going to do this particular behavior. That's quite useful. It's a really good reference guide. I think it's kept up to date quite well. My big issue with it, there was no search. So you had like these drop downs, but if I wanted to search something particular, I had to kind of click through all the things. But pretty handy. Probably the most useful tool, I think, is the ESLint plugin that's available for VS Code. So I've got my fetch query actually in here, and you can see that the fetch on line 19, I'm quite short, I think it's 19, has got a squiggly line underneath, and if you highlight that, then it will tell you, what does it say in fact? Window.fetch is distorted by Lightning Web Security. Oh, and then it gives you a link out so you can see how it's being distorted, why it might not necessarily be working 100% as you want it to. And that's really handy. Now let's have a look at some examples of what you can now do with Lightning Web Security that you couldn't do with Locker Service. Firstly, I'm going to talk about is access to the global objects, which is really cool. If you have been building web stuff for a long time, you'll have just taken for advantage all these web APIs that are coming along all the time, right? The web's always progressing. And now hopefully it means we can start using those without, I don't know. I remember watching Dreamforce online, and I can't remember who it was. Some product manager did like drag and drop in their client, and the whole crowd went mental. And I was like, I've been doing that in Google Reader in like 2000, whatever it was, I don't know. But yeah, we can do the web's amazing. Let's take advantage of it. So here I've got a page up. I've got 4 custom components: global object 1, object 2. 3's over there. I don't know why. And 4's here. I'm going to have a look at the first one. The global object 1. Start with 1. And I can just click the button to start. Oh, hey, Todd. Nice T-shirt. Yeah. I know, it's very good. This is available on shirtforce.org, Cloudorama. And he's got a cool hat. Is that Einstein 1? Oh, no, Salesforce 1. Okay. But anyway, we got web video here, right? Be amazed how easy this is to do with standard web tooling. And you could take screenshots of here. Todd's still going. Yeah, nice one, Todd. But let's look at how we can do this with just the code that's now available because Lightning Web Security is turned on. I've got access to the real navigator here. I'm just saying, if you've got media devices, get me the user media. And I'm saying, oh, yeah, give me video. Don't give me audio because it's Todd. Right? And that's it. That's all I had to do to give me a webcam stream into my Lightning Web component, which is pretty cool, isn't it? Right? That's quite neat. I mean, obviously not Todd on the screen. That's quite rubbish. Let's copy that text, global object 1. Copy. Who's done copy and paste in JavaScript? With all the kind of hidden input boxes? Have you done that? Nonsense? Oh, okay. There's a hack to do this. With web APIs, you can now just copy text, and you can access the proper web API's clipboard and say, all right, can you paste me the text? Oh, here you go. Look. Navigate to clipboard. Read the text, and then this is the text, right? Which is cool. These are standard web APIs. They've been around for quite a while, and we can now start making use of them because Locker Service is no more giving us a virtual representation of these things. We have that real access. Something else we can do is see this tooltip moving up and down there at the top and left and right. This was enabled by a third-party library, something called probably Tooltipper or something like that. If I tried to use a third-party library with Locker Service turned on, it wasn't necessarily going to work, right? Because a lot of them were using we're trying to access the DOM and web APIs that weren't supported, but now they can. And with the global object access now more or less fully there, you can start using. You take pretty much any third-party JavaScript library. Let's say one that does, I don't know, confetti. I imagine there's a confetti library. We could do with some confetti, and you can do that. So we now have lots more access. All these web APIs. I'm lying. Not all these access web APIs. Lots more web APIs are available. There are some limitations. You don't have complete parity on mobile. So if you wrote that clipboard component and expected someone to be able to do it on their phone, in fact, even the dev console says, oh, yeah, you got access to the clipboard, but you don't. Right? It's not quite there. There's no web share API. There's no Bluetooth API. I don't think there's NFC. In fact, have you seen Salesforce have just launched the NFC component, I think? So there's a library that you can import where they've given themselves special permission, I can imagine. In fact, yeah, look, Lightning mobile capability. So if you import this library, you can get access to some of these things through Salesforce's kind of door to these things rather than through the standard web APIs. But you've got access to like IndexedDB and storage mechanisms. There's a huge amount of scope. I have asked, how do we get these things brought to us? I know because I specialize in mobile. I'd love it if my standard LWCs could interact with the Bluetooth API, right? That would be very cool. And web share on mobile. I haven't been given an answer yet how I can get through to those. I guess an idea, and then 20 years down the road, we'll have an answer. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Global object access is good, isn't it? Apart from Todd on the video. Another thing we can do now with Lightning Web Security is this cross-namespace component use. The idea being is that Lightning Web components are kind of encapsulated in their own little sandboxes. And what this allows us to do is, if you're writing a Lightning Web component, you can bring somebody else's managed Lightning Web component inside your component programmatically and make use of it, which is cool. I say this, let's see a demo. I'm going to copy global object 4 here. We saw this copy and paste earlier, which is cool. But global object 4 is going to generate me a QR code from this URL. I'm only really doing this so I can show off that I just want an image. So let's copy this image. I'll show you that it's copied to the clipboard by pasting it into a doc. Cool, image on my clipboard. What I now want to do is paste that into my little component that we're using, the clipboard API, and we'll see what happens. Right. So I got an error up there, unable to do something blah, 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 blah. I didn't write the code to represent that little message bar thing. That is it. I don't know. I'm colorblind. So is it orange or red? Orange. That little orange thing. I didn't write that. That was somebody else's component, a managed package that I'd installed, and then I could make use of. And the code to do that kind of is like this. So this is my template, and I'm saying if there's an error, then you're rendering stuff inside. And then I've got somebody else's namespaced Lightning Web component in here, and I'm saying, oh yeah, I want to providing some values to the properties in there, and that's creating that UI thing. Is that making sense? Am I rabbiting? That's pretty cool, right? This is so Stefan Chandler Garcia, Salesforce Evangelist. I never know, some developer evangelist. He'd written this managed package that has this little utility in. You can install it in your org. I mean, you can drag and drop it in the app build and stuff. But now, as a developer, you can actually use those components inside your components, which is very, very cool. I think this, for me, hopefully will be a game changer for the way that App Exchange can be viewed. Thinking about not just necessarily providing full apps on the App Exchange. You could be providing just this one component, right? You could provide components for all sorts of things. That could be your specialty. And I think opens a door to a component market space, I guess. Marketplace. I'm excited. The RefreshView API. This is the next thing. It's quite exciting. This is what the talk title is about, synchronizing component data between things. So when I wrote this talk and I submitted it to North Africa Dreaming, this was something you could only do in Lightning Web Security. I think a week before my talk, Salesforce announced you could now do this in Locker as well. And this is what I said. They were maintaining Locker, not enhancing it. So I was like, yes, right, this is good. And they brought it out. I asked Mo here, I said, what's happening here? He said, actually, there was just so much demand from the big enterprise customers because they love RefreshView API, but they're all stuck on Locker for various Aura reasons, I can imagine. And so they had to bring it in. And I was like, okay, fair enough. That's all cool. So we've got two talks in one. We've got RefreshView and Lightning Web Security. So this is another demo I'm going to show you now, RefreshView API. I've got edge communications. You might have heard of those. This is the details here. I've got two custom components on the side. One allowing me to add a new contact, and I can select it as this primary contact with some custom thing I've thrown in, and a primary contact drop down to select the primary contact. So let's have a demo of this. Todd, can you put someone in, please? Rick Blaine. Anyone know why it's Rick Blaine? He was the guy in Casablanca, the film, and I was presenting this in Casablanca. I know, dubious at best. But you can see, I've added the contact in. Rick's in here now, which is cool. He's in my related list as well, which is all good. Right. The question is he in my primary contact drop down? Yes? No? No, he's not there, right? Because that LWC still has got its last two contacts you knew about. Hasn't refreshed. Okay. We can change the primary contact in here back to... what's her name, Rose? Oh, no, that's Sean. Okay, let's put Sean in. And my primary contact LDC, the one on the far side, has updated this. But that's cool because it knows about that contact. Didn't know about Rick. What we can do now with the RefreshView API is when our component makes changes to data, so my add contact component, for example, can say, right, I've now done something, I've saved something to the database. I now want to tell anyone that might be listening that there might be new data for them. This is done really simply. I'm importing refresh event from a module, and then I've got a function called handle save, and I'm going to go, right, once I've saved, I'm now going to dispatch this event out to the world, and anything that's listening can understand it. The good news here, a lot of the standard components, I don't know if all of them are, but a lot of them are already implementing the other half of this, which is listening to that event, and also publicizing as well. So when I put this in, the standard components will already be listening to me, which is good. On the other side, so I've got my little component that was adding the contact where we added Rick in, and then my dropdown, this is my dropdowns component. In here, I want to know if new contacts have been added potentially or deleted. And I'm now going to import something that says, right, I want to listen for this, I want to register a handler for this, and also unregister, I think. And then when I set up my connected callback, I'm saying, right, this is the function that's going to be defined to handle this. And I have a function that says, right, when you hear this register event, can you refresh Apex on my components, whatever the data is, right? So I'm just saying, right, refresh this stuff. So let's see that in action now. Like there was 10 lines of code. Let's put someone else in. Isla Lund? She's the lady in Casablanca. We add her in, set as primary contact. And now you can see my primary contact field over here, drop down. Isla's in there now, which is good too. That component heard the message sent from the other one saying, oh, I've got a thing you might want to refresh. And this has. That's good, it works, right? Which is ace. That means for users, I think a much better user experience, right? So, and you don't have to do things like full page refreshes, which could take a long time. So performance increase, code improvements. Yes, Richard. Lightning data service. I don't think so. Was it? The messaging service could do that, but you'd be hand rolling bits, I think. Yeah, this is more of a generic. Yeah. Okay. Good question, though. Something that you could do here as well with the refresh events, if you're listening for stuff, is if you've got a container component, the container component's got to be listening for the child to get it, and the container component obviously doesn't have to echo it down, right? It can like prevent it going any further. So you get quite a bit of control. You can also do this in Locker. Registering the handler is like, this is LWS on the top here. The bottom is Locker Service. Very similar. The only thing is you're passing in, I think that the this context is being passed through, I guess, from the template host. That's good. For listening is the same thing. A weird thing, so being an ISV, when we build apps, we don't know what the customer's got, right? They might have Locker, they might have Lightning. They might have Locker today and Lightning next week. This actually comes from the developer guides. If you want to check if Lightning's on, what you want to do is try and create a new web worker and then make sure the error message looks like a specific thing. This is just insane. But this is what it looks like. I mean, it works. It works. It's utter BS, right? I mean, the thing is, you could check for this in 100 different ways, right? You could check to see if you get access to clipboard, right, or media services, whatever, right? But this is. Yeah, no, true. Yeah, true. But this is just. I have been told that this will change, and there'll be a proper like you can import something and try and. That's bizarre, but it's okay.
I was saying, generally speaking, things that work in Locker will work in the US.
Yes, unless you're doing quite funky things with Aura, correct. Most of the things I think do work, and actually, Lightning Web Security's implementation is getting better with every release. So some more and more things are being supported every release. So the less likelihood you're going to have stuff to break. The problem is if you're doing things like as an app provider, I might have something that's using like the native clipboard, but I'm giving that to people who might not have it. I've got to know how to handle those situations, right? And this would be. Yeah, for individual things, but but it gets a bit. It can get a bit confusing, I guess. But that's quite funky. I thought it was quite funny, so I left it in there. limitations. So some Aura stuff doesn't still work in Lightning Web Security. So do try it in a sandbox before you enable it. Obviously, you won't have the choice if auto rollout's being turned on. You might still be able to turn it off. Distortions don't give you everything, right? So, like I said, mobile support isn't quite there. And if you're trying to do something, it might not work 100% as you want it to or expect it to. And obviously, there's ISV implications. But the benefits, I think, far outweigh it. All the stuff you get with web APIs is brilliant. And web APIs are always moving on, right? So keep an eye out for the standard stuff coming through because it can be good. Third-party library support, like I said, you can now just like Google, I want to have confetti on my page, get someone's library. I mean, this is dependency nightmare, right? But that could be in there. Cross-namespace stuff is really cool. Hopefully that changes the marketplace. And the RefreshView API. So I talked about kind of what it was, why, when, and all those bits and pieces. There's some resources here if you're interested in more. There's an FAQ. I think that's still being updated. There's a really good, it's Code Live. There's a really good Code Live webinar here on the RefreshView API, which is cool. I don't know if I mentioned there's another Code Live tomorrow at 6 p.m.
Someone on there?
Someone is. They're not very good. They're talking about, what am I talking about? Visual Studio Code extensions and Code Builder extensions. This is a link to Stefan's little, message utility component, which is quite cool just to play with. And then there's these slides as well. Any questions? Any non-hard questions? Keir, questions?
Do you think the lack of support for some of the mobile aspects is because Salesforce is slow, or do you think they're actually concerned about security and don't want to open up people's mobile devices to dodgy coders like you?
I think it's more to do with the architecture of the mobile device. So that our Lightning Web components are going inside a web view, running something like Cordova and stuff that's in there. That has limitations, different limitations depending on Android and iOS. And I think it's a kind of trying to work out the best way to make it work. Yeah, I mean, it's the mobile space is quite difficult because all these things are moving. Salesforce is moving, Android's moving, iOS is moving. And so iOS's implementation of things like web share was infinitely better than Android's, but it was like a year later. And Salesforce have got to kind of, I guess, play all this stuff off each other. But at the moment, I think it's just because they wanted to give us access to things like geolocation and whatever. And so they built their own version of it. And at the moment, it's still there, I think. Yeah, hopefully it gets better. Ollie?
Yeah, is there a kind of standard or suggested migration path from switching it on?
So the question is there a standard migration path to switching LWS on? I mean, firstly, you might be amazed whether you've got LWS on or Locker at the moment. You might go back and check tonight what's on in your orgs. I would suggest, definitely turn things on in sandboxes is first and see what breaks. Have a look through. The things to look out for would be Aura stuff. Most of the LWC stuff is non-Aura stuff is okay, I think. But yeah, try it out in sandboxes first. I should have checked, but I can't remember if you can still disable LWS. Yeah.
You can also change the version, the API version of LWS to older version if you need to.
Oh, can you? Oh, so apparently you can change the version of LWS. Oh, right. I didn't know that. That's cool. Anything else? In that case, thank you very much.